I was 22 when my future ended. It was spring semester at Briarvale University, and I was weeks away from graduating with honors in computer science. I had lined up a job with ValorTech, a top-tier cybersecurity firm, the kind of place that turns fresh grads into six-figure legends. I'd earned every inch of that path. Top of my class, tutoring weaker students, pulling brutal all-nighters while others coasted on privilege and connections. And then, it all collapsed. It started with a summons from the dean's office. I remember the look on Dean Randall's face when I walked in. Cold, suspicious. He didn't even offer me a seat before dropping the bomb. "You've been accused of academic fraud, plagiarism on your final systems design paper." I laughed, thinking it was a mistake. I told him, "I wrote that paper from scratch." He didn't smile. "The university has reviewed your submission. We found identical portions submitted by 3 other students: Nathan Carter, Paul Green, and Hannah Price." My stomach twisted. Those were my classmates, people I thought were friends. We'd studied together, sure. I had shared notes, talked through theory, but share my code? Never. I was expelled 2 days later. No hearing, no chance to defend myself. The school's honor council decided my clean record wasn't enough to outweigh 3 identical accusations. They claimed I distributed my work. They claimed I was the leak. The job offer vanished within a week. ValorTech retracted the offer with a sterile email that didn't even say goodbye. My parents were silent with shame. My father couldn't even look at me. My mother whispered prayers under her breath and locked the door when church friends came by, hoping no one would find out. I emailed Hannah, I texted Nathan, I called Paul. No replies, nothing but silence. Then, a week later, I saw a photo on Hannah's feed. The 3 of them smiling at a bar, drinks in hand, toasting to a new beginning. Nathan had captioned it, "Hard work pays off." That's when I knew. They framed me. Took my code, used it, and when the university flagged the duplicates, they threw me under the bus. The convenient scapegoat, the one who always helped, who everyone knew was the smartest in the room. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went quiet, cold. If they wanted me buried, they should have dug deeper. I moved to a crumbling apartment on the edge of Baltimore, worked at a gas station during the day and coded at night. I rebuilt myself piece by piece. I didn't need Briarvale. I didn't need ValorTech. I just needed time. I took freelance gigs, boring ones, bug fixes, data scraping, but I was fast and I never missed deadlines. Word spread. I built a name on the dark web as a ghost coder for black hat operations. Nothing violent, nothing that hurt people, just infiltration, extraction, quiet thing. 2 years passed. Then one day, I got a contract from someone named Martel Consulting to do penetration testing on HR infrastructure systems. It wasn't illegal. They needed to know where their vulnerabilities were. I did well. A month later, another HR firm hired me for back-end database audits. Then another. By the time I was 26, I had become the guy HR tech firms called when they wanted their systems locked tighter than Fort Knox. I wasn't rich, but I had access. And more importantly, I had control. See, modern hiring is algorithmic. Applications are filtered before a human even sees them. HR databases link into LinkedIn, Glassdoor, even internal reference checks. It's all numbers, scores, metadata, and I was swimming in it. One night, I saw Nathan's name pop up in a resume database I was auditing. He was applying for a software position at a company called Typhon Dynamics, a client of one of the firms I worked with. It took me less than 5 minutes to modify his applicant record. I didn't delete it, that would be too obvious. I adjusted his employment dates, added a flag that marked a reference inconsistency. I injected a note that said, "Flagged by internal reviewer for suspicious certification." The algorithm dropped him from the shortlist. Weeks later, I checked again. Still unemployed. Still sending applications. I sat in the dark with my laptop. Stared at his photo on LinkedIn, smiling, confident, talking about overcoming adversity. I whispered to the screen, called down. Then I started watching the others. Hannah had landed a marketing analytics job at a pharmaceutical firm. She'd worked her way up to team lead, but she was ambitious. She was looking elsewhere. Her resume hit 3 systems I had back-end access to. I didn't block her. Not right away. Instead, I seeded a digital whisper, a subtle trail, a non-verifiable anonymous report to one of the systems, maybe using inflated KPIs from previous position, unverifiable achievements, risk flagged. That kind of thing spreads in HR networks like a disease. Companies talk, quietly, discreetly. Over the next 6 months, she was ghosted by 5 major employers. Interview invites stopped coming. Her current company passed her over for promotion. She posted vague quotes on Instagram about betrayal and glass ceilings. I watched it all. I watched her crack a little. Paul took longer. He wasn't as ambitious. He liked safe roles. He landed one in an IT department at a government contractor in D.C. I couldn't touch him directly. Too many firewalls, too many audits. So I waited. Then one day, his resume hit a recruiting firm I did freelance security audits for. He wanted to move up. Better pay, better title. I didn't block him. I elevated him and made his resume look too perfect, too polished. I flagged it as a potential AI-generated profile, added inconsistencies, a few red flags. He was blacklisted as a suspected fake applicant. No one called, no one emailed, just silence. He posted on Reddit asking if anyone else had experienced weird job ghosting lately. I bookmarked it. They had taken my future. Now I was taking theirs, one resume at a time. Revenge wasn't loud. It didn't come with explosions or dramatic showdowns. It came in the form of silence, in ghosted interviews, in resumes that never reached hiring managers, in algorithms that quietly pushed them to the bottom of the list. I didn't need them to know I was behind it. In fact, I preferred they didn't. Let them think it was bad luck, a shrinking job market, maybe even karma. But deep down, I wanted them to feel it, that gnawing fear, the slow unraveling of confidence, the self-doubt. And I wasn't done. One night, a job feed from a tech company called Cynthium Systems showed a name I hadn't seen in years, Madison Lake. She hadn't been in the original group that framed me, but she was worse. Back in college, Madison was the one who found the plagiarism and reported it to the dean. She had always acted like she was on some moral crusade, like she was above everyone else. But I remembered the way she always asked for help when assignments got tough. The way she lingered around our group, laughing at jokes she didn't understand. She had submitted her own paper to the same professor a week after mine. Identical code. She claimed she had no idea mine even existed, said it was a coincidence. But she knew. I had the GitHub logs to prove it. She'd forked my repo at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, 3 days before the submission. But back then, no one had listened. Now she was climbing fast. Senior data analyst, giving TEDx talks, LinkedIn full of fake humility and corporate buzzwords. I smiled when I saw her resume pass through a reference verification system I'd helped build. It only took 3 minor injections. 1. An invisible line break that embedded a phantom warning, a technique used for internal red flags. 2. A duplicate reference field linking her to an unrelated fraud investigation. 3. A metadata conflict in her employment history. The system didn't reject her outright. It simply paused her file, left it in limbo, a permanent under review. Weeks went by. I tracked her progress through recruiter chatter. She called in favors, networked, tried to escalate, but no one gave her a reason why her application stalled. Eventually, the silence wore her down. She posted an update saying she was taking time to reflect and grateful for the journey. The usual smokescreen for professional humiliation. I marked her name off my list. But then something unexpected happened. An old contact from my Briarvale days reached out. Elliot White. He had been quiet during the scandal, never took sides. He wasn't a friend, but he wasn't a coward either. Said he believed something didn't add up, but didn't have proof. Now, he was working at Emberline Partners, a recruitment firm for senior tech positions. He wanted help tightening their back-end resume filtering. Accepted. Not just because I needed the contract, but because it gave me access to new companies, new hiring streams, a broader reach. And then something better. I found Paul again. He had gotten desperate, started lying on his applications, inflating his experience, faking certifications. Big mistake. Emberline had a reputation to protect. I flagged his profile and pushed it to their fraud detection queue. Within a week, they blacklisted him permanently. Shared the flag with 3 other recruiting firms. His online presence started to thin out after that. Fewer posts, no job updates, just silence. I wasn't just ruining their chances. I was making sure every door stayed closed. One night, I was on a secure server cleaning old data logs when I found something strange. A job application from Nathan, submitted through a shell startup I'd never heard of. The resume was real, but the company wasn't. Curious, I dug deeper. The startup was owned by a venture group run by Hannah. She had pivoted, grown tired of corporate jobs. She was trying to build something of her own now, something small, ambitious, with seed money from her father's contacts. That was when it hit me. They were regrouping. I wasn't just dealing with scattered careers anymore. They were forming something new, a lifeboat, one that could save them if I let it float. You couldn't have that. I'd created a phantom candidate, a perfect resume, Ivy League background, experience at all the right places, recommendations from names they'd recognize, real names scrubbed from public records and inserted just well enough to pass casual checks. I submitted it to their startup, Zachary Mason, the ghost candidate. They hired him immediately. Of course they did. I waited a week, then I triggered the second phase. Through back-end access to their domain registrar and email server, I inserted subtle errors, slight delays in their messaging, missed calendar invites, a corrupted investor pitch deck. Their systems began glitching, just enough to make them question Zachary's competence, just enough to stir mistrust. Then I made Zachary disappear, vanished from their system mid-projector, no trace, no backups, no files recovered. Investors pulled out, internal fights broke out. Hannah posted a blog about learning from failure and how tech is unforgiving. I poured myself a drink. 3 down, but it wasn't over. Because I wasn't the same boy they buried back in college. I had grown teeth, and I still had the sharpest ones saved for the last round. The thing about revenge is that it starts as a craving, a burning itch behind your ribs. But once it's fed, it evolves, it sharpens. It becomes something colder, more calculated. By now, Nathan was unemployed, Paul was toxic in the recruiting system, Hannah's startup was bleeding out, and Madison had vanished from the job market altogether. But it wasn't enough, because they still had something I didn't. Their names. Despite everything I'd done, their records were still clean on paper. No official stains, no public black marks. If someone influential ever took a chance on them, they could bounce back. They could rebuild. So I dug deeper. Not into their files, into their lives. I wanted to find something they couldn't scrub, something they couldn't hide behind a recruiter's login. Nathan was first. He had started taking freelance contracts to stay afloat. Small app builds, database optimization, digital marketing integrations. Mostly through a mid-tier freelancing site called Gridwork. I created a client profile, set up a fake business, hired him under a fake name. Over the course of 3 weeks, I posed as an overwhelmed founder in need of a robust backend, gave him vague specs, kept changing the scope, demanded impossible deadlines. Then, when the project was due, I flagged him for breach of contract. Gridwork had a three-strike policy. He had already had one from a past client, my complaint made 2. A fake review from a sock puppet account made 3. His profile was permanently suspended. He tried appealing. I intercepted the help ticket, marked it resolved. He posted in tech forums, begging for advice. No one responded. I wasn't just sabotaging his resume now. I was cutting off every ladder he could climb. Then came Madison. She'd been quiet since the application freeze, but I found traces of her online. Private communities for laid-off professionals, mentorship groups for women in tech. She was trying to rebrand herself, not as a data analyst, but as a consultant, a coach. That made it easy. I created a website, womentechrise.com, a fabricated initiative for empowering female tech leaders, slick design, professionally written copy, a network of non-existent companies promising to work with female consultants. I reached out to her under a fake admin account, asked if she'd be interested in hosting a webinar. She said yes in under an hour. We set the date. I had her prep a slide deck. She posted about it, promoted it, told everyone this was her return. Then on the morning of the event, I replaced the homepage with a single message. This domain has been flagged for fraudulent activities and data harvesting. It wasn't real. But it didn't have to be. Screenshots spread, forums buzzed. She was labeled a scammer, someone who misled people for profit. A few tried defending her, but the rumor moved faster than the truth ever could. She deleted all her socials within 3 days. I didn't smile. I just took a sip of coffee and opened the next file. Hannah. Her startup was gone. The investors had moved on, but she wasn't the kind to stay down. She'd taken a role as a contract project manager for a high-profile AI firm. Temporary, but elite. It was her way back in. I needed something stronger this time, so I went after the contract itself. Most HR systems are locked, but proposal tracking software? Not so much. I gained access through a partner vendor. Injected modified terms into her onboarding packet, clauses she never saw. Liability flags, misattributed responsibility for future data leaks. Then I created the leak. I sent a small batch of anonymized data from her project to an online tech blog under the name of a fake whistleblower. Within days, the company went into panic mode. They traced the leak back to her department, found the altered documents, her name on them. She was fired, no lawsuit, no drama, just terminated and blacklisted quietly. And just like that, another door slammed shut. But the best was yet to come. Because Paul, sweet, boring Paul, had tried something bold. He was rebranding, too. A new name, new photo, a full identity makeover to escape the red flags in the hiring systems. I found him by accident. A job posting for a DevOps position showed eerily familiar phrasing. The experience matched. I checked the metadata on the resume file. He'd forgotten to scrub the document properties. It was him. He was going by Jason Neal now. New email, new LinkedIn, clean slate. But he'd applied through a hiring platform I had direct back-end access to. This time, I didn't flag him. I did something better. I gave him the job. I elevated his resume, removed any automatic filters, made him look like a perfect candidate. He got an interview, got hired, started working. I waited 6 weeks. Then I initiated a quiet audit request from within the system, created a fake complaint, internal conflict of interest, discrepancy in security clearance history. The company launched a formal review, found out Jason Neal didn't exist, that he had faked his past, faked everything. He was fired. The company sent out a warning to every firm in its security network. He blacklisted him again, but this time with public markers. I didn't just erase Paul. I erased the man he tried to become. And as I sat in my apartment, lights low, screens glowing, I realized I wasn't just settling old scores. I was building something else. A world where their lies couldn't survive. A world where truth, when wielded right, could be a blade sharp enough to cut through futures. And I still had one move left. Because while they were busy scraping pieces off the floor, I was about to walk into a room they never even knew existed. 4 years had passed since I was expelled. 4 years since I stood in Dean Randall's office, stunned as he told me I had no future, since Nathan, Paul, Hannah, and Madison handed me over like garbage, walked away clean, and toasted their new beginnings. And now, their careers were smoldering wreckage. They had no jobs, no reputations, no direction. But I still didn't feel done, because it wasn't just them who took everything from me. Briarvale University never investigated properly. They never cross-checked my code-based timestamps, never looked deeper than the surface. They needed someone to blame, someone disposable, and they chose me. So I went back, not with a hoodie and a crowbar. I went back as a sponsor. Over the years, I'd funneled a portion of my freelance income through a clean shell company, used it to donate to tech scholarships, sponsor hackathons, and fund educational platforms. One of those platforms had recently partnered with Briarvale's computer science department. Under my alias, I was invited to campus for a networking event, to speak with students, to inspire. The irony cut deep. I wore a navy suit, clean shave, eyes forward. No one recognized me. The dean was there, Randall, older now, a little grayer, but just as self-righteous. He shook my hand, thanked me for the donation, told me Briarvale was always grateful for alumni support. He smiled. I'm not an alum. He looked confused. I leaned in, voice low. I'm the kid you expelled, the one you didn't listen to, the one you threw away. His eyes widened. He opened his mouth, but I kept talking. I lost my future here because you trusted 3 liars, because you didn't think it mattered to look deeper. I pulled away. My tone remained even. You're lucky I didn't burn this place to the ground. He stammered, reached for some pathetic apology. I didn't care. I turned and walked into the auditorium. That night, I gave a talk about digital ethics, career resilience, and the future of hiring intelligence. I told a roomful of students the truth, not about what happened to me, but about how careers can be shaped or shattered by invisible hands. About how the system behind the curtain is often more powerful than any interview. They listened closely. Some nodded, some looked shaken. Good. Let them know the system isn't fair. Let them know someone like me exists. Someone who doesn't forget. After the event, I left campus and never looked back. Months passed. Nathan resurfaced on a low-tier job board, using his real name again, offering remote web design. His rates were pathetic. Paul moved back in with his parents. He posted a photo of a hiking trail with the caption focusing on mental health. Madison enrolled in a digital detox retreat in Oregon. She was reconnecting with herself, probably trying to forget who she used to be. Hannah tried one last pivot, an attempt to join a tech nonprofit. I intercepted the hiring manager's request for background checks. Her application never made it through. They weren't just unemployed, they were forgotten. And me? I was doing just fine. I never reclaimed the future they stole. I didn't go back to Valor Tech. Didn't chase the big job, the big office, the 6-figure dream. I didn't need to. I had something else, something purer. Control. I was the shadow behind HR filters, the quiet hand adjusting opportunity and denial. And I never used it on people who didn't deserve it, never wrecked someone out of spite or jealousy. But when someone tried to cheat, to climb on someone else's back, to forge or frame or lie, I was 22 weeks away from graduating with honors, a 6-figure job already lined up. Then 3 people I trusted stole my work, accused me of fraud, and watched me burn. They thought it was over, that I'd disappear. Instead, I vanished into the system. And when I came back, I was the system. I saw them, always saw them. And for those people, I was the reckoning that never blinked. Revenge had started as justice, but now it was purpose, and I wore it like armor.